I want to welcome you to the third in our series of community conversations, Understanding Immigration Reform, No Dumb Questions. Today we have the pleasure of screening The Dream Is Now and hearing from our guest activist, Erika Andiola. And we'll have a Q&A session afterwards. You should have already gotten, or they're certainly available to you, note cards that have been passed around and pens so that you can write your questions as they occur to you during the film or during Erika's talk, and then pass them along to the sides where some of our representatives from Canal Alliance will gather those and get them to me, and I'll be asking the questions, as many questions that we can fit in by the end of the experience. So get to those cards. If you don't have cards and need one, Josh, raise your hand. Josh will make them available. Pamela will be walking around. And I'd now like to take this moment to introduce our Executive Director, Tom Wilson.
Thank you, Jorge, and a special thanks to you, Erika, for making this long trip to be here. Erika had to fly from Washington, D.C. to get here and is going back tonight.
Yes.
So we really thank you for doing that. Thank you. We're happy to have you all here today. Canal Alliance is taking a leadership role in really helping people to understand the complex issue of immigration and immigration reform. This is, as Jorge said, the third in our series, and we will be continuing that series. We're really proud this time to begin a relationship with the College of Marin and partner with them in this event. So I would like to introduce Jonathan Eldridge, who is the Vice President of Student Services, I believe. Yes. And I think you might have a couple of words you want to say to welcome people, Jonathan. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Tom, and yes, welcome to College of Marin. We're very pleased to partner with Canal Alliance on this and hopefully many things in the future. And just real quickly, just want to say that anytime we have an opportunity to engage the community and our both on campus and off in discussions of importance and things we really all have an obligation to become informed and educated on, we want to take that opportunity, and we're happy to have that today. So again, welcome to College of Marin. Thank you.
And now, without further ado, we're pleased and proud to have one of the subjects of this amazing film here with us today to speak to you, Erika Andiola.
Can you hear me okay? Great. It always makes me, I've seen it like 15 times, and it always makes me cry. Okay, let me put myself together. Okay. So thank you all so much for having me here. It's my first time in this side of town, San Francisco, so I really like it. It's really beautiful. The greenest day we have in Arizona is like a cactus, so like everything up here looks so green. It's really awesome. I mean, this film just reminds me of so much of our movement, and I think everything that happened here is just sort of a 30-minute. I mean, they had to do 30 minutes, right? Because they wanted to put it out on the online, and it had to be short. But the reality is, our movement has been going. You know, we've been around for now a couple of years, and it's so much more than this, right? And I just wanted to tell you a little bit of that, of how I started in this movement. And I can tell you that I had two inspirations that drove me to start organizing, to start, you know, knocking on doors, talking to people about my story, teaching other youth to tell their story. And one of those inspirations, of course, is my mother. To me, she's one of the most amazing women that I've ever read in my life. She actually ran away from domestic violence in Mexico, right? So just that itself, for me, a woman that's able to do that, it's, you know, it's an amazing woman. Not only that, but, you know, she made the decision that she didn't want us to be around my father anymore because he wasn't healthy for us, right? So she took five kids across the border. And it's one of the hardest things that she could have ever done, but to her, in her mind, it was the right decision. And for us, of course, it was definitely the right decision in our lives. And so definitely she has been one of the ones that has pushed me so much. And, my second inspiration has been our dreamers. About in 2008, we were not really called dreamers. There wasn't such a word. There was something called the Dream Act, of course, but it was, it was early in the 2006, 2007, that there was like a small group of youth that started sort of coming together through the national organizations in DC. There wasn't really like a face. There wasn't really like the people that were affected that were actually organizing. And so the DC groups, started bringing a couple of youth from across the country to like mock graduations. I don't know if you ever watched on TV, but there's been like yearly mock graduations in Washington, sort of like symbolically saying, right, like there's all these youth that are ready to graduate, but they don't have the papers. And so through that, a lot of us started meeting each other. And it wasn't until 2008 that I was in school, and as you saw in the film, I wasn't able to, I lost my scholarships, and I was like, wow, I had to pay 4 times more. So I thought I was the only undocumented student in college. And, well, actually, no, I had my best friend who was also undocumented. So I thought it was only 2 of us at ASU. And so, one day we applied for a private scholarship. That's how I was able to graduate. And this private scholarship brought all of us together to tell us how we were gonna keep the scholarship, of course. And so we come one day in a room and we see like 200 youth. And I was like, whoa, you must be here because you got this scholarship. That means that you don't have a social. That means we're not the only undocumented people in the whole school. Wow. And so, I even had some of my classmates that I didn't know that didn't have a social, that they didn't have documents. And so just seeing each other in Arizona around that time was one of the most powerful things that we could have done. Because around that time was when Sheriff Joe Arpaio, many of you probably have heard of him, but around this time, the sheriff was doing raids almost every day in Mesa, where I grew up. And so it was a very stressful time for that community. And so also Proposition 300 passed at the same time for students to get out of state tuition. And so it was so stressful that when we saw each other and we started kind of realizing that we had a lot in common, that we didn't have a driver's license, so many of us had to like either take the bus together or we had to, just ask each other for rides for those who actually, took the risk of driving. And so just coming together in that sense made us realize that we were not alone. And so that's when we said, you know what, we need to start doing something for ourselves and for our families. And so we decided to call our first meeting after like the scholarship meeting. And out of all places, we chose the basement of ASU. I don't know why. I didn't know the logic behind it, but to us, it seemed like the safest place to meet. And one of the first items on the agenda was, are we going to keep the sign outside that says Dream Scholars Meet Here, or are we going to take it off? It was like a clear sign that people were still afraid. They were very afraid of somebody just coming, seeing the sign, and coming into the room and taking all of us. And so that was sort of like the first times that we decided to meet. And from there, we were like, we need to do something. Let's start organizing. We didn't know what organizing was back in the day. We just thought that putting a table outside of the door or outside of the cafeteria and asking people to call for the Dream Act was something that we could do. But eventually, we were kind of tired of like the newspapers putting us in like a shade and like covering our faces. I remember my name was like Maria sometimes it was like Isabel, I don't even know, because they didn't want to put my real name out there, right? People were afraid for me and I was afraid for myself. But we decided at some point, we said, you know what? The media is telling our stories. The media is talking about our story. They're putting, images of people who are crossing the border with backpacks. You know what? I had a backpack when I was crossing the border, and the backpack was just full of recuerdos, right? Like things that I brought from Mexico. It wasn't a drug. It wasn't anything that people would think. And so I wanted to tell that story. I wanted for people to know that I wasn't that, the illegal alien that most folks have in their minds. I was just an undocumented person who happened to be brought here for the right reasons. And so in 2010, that's when we said, you know what, we need to come out of the shadows. We need to put a face to this struggle. We're going to be undocumented. We're going to be unafraid. For the very first time, we were inspired by the courage of our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. And they have a coming out of the shadows day, right? And so we said, you know what, let's use the coming out of the shadows day to come out ourselves. It's not necessarily of the closet, but out of the shadows, right? And so that's when we, for the very first time, called it the National Day of the Coming Out. And we started telling our stories to everybody. We had huge rallies across the country. And this is for the very first time when I saw that people were interested on who we were. Fast forward, in 2010, we lost the DREAM Act. I was there at the Capitol when this happened, organizing youth. And, it was devastating. But in my mind, and in the mind of a lot of us that look back, and we say, you know what? Maybe that had to happen. Maybe that had to happen because we might have not gotten a legislative win, but it made us so much stronger. And we actually realized that we did have the power. We just had to keep going. In 2011, we said, you know what, I think we have enough power to push the president, right? Not a lot of youth in the U.S. think that they can actually push the president, but we're like, screw it, I mean, the president talks about dreamers all the time. Might as well have him talk about it, and actually do something about it. And so in 2011, we started pushing a campaign to get administrative relief. And we were denied many times by the administration. We were told that we were crazy, that it wasn't, they could not do it. I remember we actually crashed one of their national convenings, and we were he's like, no, I cannot do any of this for the Dreamers. And we started chanting, yes, you can, si se puede. So eventually, media started asking him, can this be possible, right? So in 2012, that's when we saw the results. We saw the results that we were able to maybe not change his mind, but we were able to actually use the power of our community to say, if you really, really want Latino voters, whatever is it that you want, we're going to push you because you need it. And eventually we're able to come with a deferred action for childhood arrivals, which now, thank God, I was able to apply for it. I have a little, it's a red card and a Social Security, which is now, for many of you that have had a social since you were born, you don't really realize how much that's worth. It's been crazy, trust me, not having it for so many things. And so, it's been amazing, but there's one thing that made me realize when they took my mom. It was the same day that I got a job. And to me, that was somebody out there, I don't know, in the world, was it God, whoever it was, that was telling me, you know what, this is not enough. That's just not enough. And your family, your mom, your brother are still they're still vulnerable. And we made a decision. We said we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting for this. And we're still right now fighting for it. And the fact is that we have gone through a really long year. We have told by both parties that we're going to get immigration reform, and unfortunately it has become such a politicized issue. But I can tell you that what I realized is that one of the most powerful things that we have been able to do is that not necessarily, we had DACA now, but the fact that we have been able to even organize our parents. To this point, my mom is like, you know what, after what happened, she has been organizing mothers in Arizona. She has, she now tells me, Erika, I'm undocumented and unafraid too. She's amazing. And the fact is that, when I started organizing, she didn't want to, after we got arrested in Reed's office with a cap and gown, she was really afraid of me taking the cap and gown again. Because she didn't know I was going to get arrested. So, So now she's just like, you know what, let's do it. Let's do anything because I'm undocumented and afraid, and I'm going to teach other women and other mothers that they have to do the same. Because they also have to put a face, right? It's not only dreamers, it's now our mothers who also came for a reason, and they came for the right reason. And so if there's one thing that I can definitely tell you is that I don't know what's going to happen this year. Things look we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of the year with legislation. We don't know if we're going to get immigration reform or not. But I can tell you that we're still going to get a win. And that's the win that our parents are not as afraid anymore. And that's thanks to the courage of many dreamers across the country, that we have taught our parents not to be afraid. And to me, that's one of the biggest wins that we can have. And the fact that we have been learning how to organize our community so much that we can actually stop our own deportations and the deportations of our family members, that right there is a big win. And I can tell you, if one message comes out of here is that you have no idea the power of organizing. And the fact is that if you reach out to your neighbor and tell them your struggles, if you reach out to your church and tell them your struggles, I can assure you that whenever you need them, they will be there for you. And that's what happened in my life. The whole community has been there for me, and I will keep going until we can stop the deportation of every single person that deserves to be here. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Erika. I'd like to remind the audience, if you've got questions written on your cards, please pass them over this way, and we'll gather them, and I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. First question for you, Erika. Mm-hmm. What do you think we, the community, can do to see immigration reform passed?
California is a really important state, very important. And the reason for that is that in Congress, where immigration reform is at, some of the key players on immigration are from California. Nancy Pelosi's from here, and Becerra, and some of the Republican House members who really need the Latino vote are from California as well. Why do I say that? Well, the fact right now is that it's a very divisive issue in Congress, and that's the reason why it hasn't passed the House. Immigration reform passed the Senate, but it hasn't been able to pass the House, and we need both. And so one of the things that I would definitely say is that, find out who your representative is. I'm not really sure who's the representative here, but talk to your friends. Let them know that right now there is an election coming up, right? And a lot of folks are going to need to hear from voters and from people who can actually vote. And this is the right time to tell them that this is an issue that we all need to solve. Not only if you're undocumented, but if you're a citizen. This is going to help the economy like no others. I'm not a mathematician or an economist, I can tell you that. But I will tell you that we pay so much taxes. I mean, some people that come here, my mom, she loves to cook. She wants to open up a restaurant one day, and I can tell you that many people, when you give them the chance, they're going to come out, they're going to be amazing entrepreneurs, and they're going to be able to help our country grow even more. And so please pass a message to folks that you know, show them the movie, and ask them to make a call to sign a petition, or if they have the time, go to Washington D.C. and actually speak to those folks that right now have the power to move immigration reform forward. Oh, and to the president to stop deportations as well.
Thank you. Another question for you. As college educators, what are the most important things we can do to support undocumented students?
Yes, I agree. I can tell you that one of the reasons why I came out of the shadows was because of my high school teacher. She was amazing, and she was one of the teachers that I openly told that I was undocumented in high school. And she was one of the first people that told me you can do it. Doesn't matter your status. You're a smart person. You're talented. You can actually do something with your life. Unfortunately, around the time there wasn't that many resources around, and so we didn't really know a lot about how to move forward. There wasn't DACA, and so right now I feel like one of the most valuable things that we have is the internet. There's tons of organizations here in the Bay Area. There's Educators for Fair Consideration. It's one of the organizations that have tons of resources for teachers to actually find out how they can help. And open up for students to tell you their status, because if they hear that they're being put down in class or in the school, they're not going to come out. And so, having the resources to tell them where to go apply for DACA, perhaps how to actually apply for college, and California has they have the California Dream Act, which is something that not a lot of states have. So just find out a lot more about that and help them out.
Thank you. We're getting down to the end of our time, but I've got one more question for you. Now that you're sort of working for a congresswoman, what's changed about your perspective on the whole immigration issue advocacy process now that you're sort of behind the scenes in government?
Yeah, I can talk a lot about that, but I mean, I'm definitely here, not in that capacity, but I can tell you that I still have a mentality of an organizer, and I still have the mentality of a dreamer because this issue affects me personally. My mom has to go back to ICE in 3 months, in January again. This happened back in January of this year, and she has to go back in 3 months. And so this is an issue that affects me personally, which is not across the board in Congress. That's usually not the case for a lot of the staffers. I mean, there's not issues that really affect them that closely. And so, for me as a dreamer, I made a promise that I was going to go in there to make a change, to make sure that we pass immigration reform. And that's still my mentality. This is not necessarily per se a career that I wanted to pursue, but it was an opportunity to learn how things work. And I'm definitely learning how things work. And I am working still with my fellow dreamers in the movement with this sort of new knowledge that I have, to make sure that they are going in the right direction to make things happen.
Thank you very much. We don't have time to get to any more questions right now, but we want to let you know that we'll try our best to address all the questions that you sent into us on our Facebook page. So just log into us on our Facebook page to check that out. And if you still haven't dropped off your questions, you can do that on your way out the table. I just want to thank Erika one more time, and now bring up Tom Wilson.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erika. Thank you for sharing that deeply personal story with us about your family. So what can we do? That's, of course, the question that's at hand. I know we don't need to convince anybody in this room about what's right, but what can we do? We have a bill that's passed the Senate, Senate Bill 744. It's not a perfect bill, but it is what we have, and it's stuck in really Speaker Boehner's office. He won't present it on the floor. So that's a good place to focus some energy, to call John Boehner's office and tell him we want that bill to go to the floor. There's some other things that we want to insist on if we can, and that is that anything that's passed has a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million people that are in our country. Think about this story that we heard and the anguish of this one family. Multiply that times 11 million, and that's what's happening in our country. And that's just the people directly affected. Then there are many more people who are connected to those families, friends, and neighbors. So it's a very, very big issue. So please, write a letter, make a call, make several calls, and if you'd like to gather some neighbors at your house and talk about these, you show the film. It's online. You can download it, and you can show the film to people and have a discussion about it. So, so that's what you can do. Thank you to everyone for coming today.
To do, organizing for action is doing things on immigration reform, calling Congress people in California to influence them, to constituents to influence their congresspersons to actually say yes to immigration reform. And we have potentially, we do have an event that's happening on the 17th of November at the downtown San Rafael Plaza next to the Bank of America at 2:30 to 4 o'clock in November 17th. Go to marinofa.org, marinofa.org to see how you might make phone calls or show up for that demonstration on November 17th.
All right, John, thank you. And thanks to everyone for coming today.